On the morning of August 26, 2015, WDBJ reporter 24-year-old Allison Parker and her cameraman 27-year-old Adam Ward visited the Bridgewater Plaza near Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. Their goal was to do a live interview with the executive director of the local Chamber of Commerce, Vicki Gardner, about an upcoming event at the lake. Things went just as planned initially, with Adam setting up the camera equipment and Allison starting the interview at 6:45 a.m. What none of them knew, however, was that they were about to become the victims of a crazed stalker. Just seconds into the interview, an armed man walked up to the group and opened fire.
Tonight, we're looking at some TikToks you don't want to watch alone. Welcome back, family. Thank you to all the channel members for support. If y'all are seeing this video right now, remember to like it, subscribe, hype it up so it gets pushed to more people and get caught in the algorithm. Let's go.
Morbid Facts, Part 726. Here's a photo of two tourists posing inside the Claw of Death at Chernobyl, a massive crane used to scoop up chunks of radioactive reactor core after the 1986 meltdown. The machine is still so contaminated that standing near it can deliver radiation doses dozens of times higher than a chest X-ray, and its rusted frame is coated in radioactive dust that can cling to hair, skin, or clothing. While a brief picture likely won't cause immediate sickness, the exposure adds to long-term cancer risk, and any contamination they brought home could be far deadlier. It remains one of the most dangerously toxic relics of the exclusion zone, yet people still climb inside it for a photo op. In 2000, a Tahitian man named Fidel Maruhi pulled off one of the most unlikely survivals in aviation history. He stowed away in the wheel well of a Boeing 747 bound for Los Angeles. For 7.5 hours, he endured sub-zero temperatures and near total lack of oxygen, and when rescuers found him, his core body temperature was just 79 degrees Fahrenheit, a level usually considered fatal. But against all odds, he lived, and when asked why he'd risk such a death-defying stunt, he explained his dream was to reach France simply so he could shake hands with soccer legend Zinedine Zidane.
Me personally, I don't think a handshake is worth that much torture.
Congratulations! You've been hired as the night guard at Wes Supermarket in the desolate town of Derry, Maine. Your job? Patrol the aisles, watch the cameras, and follow the rules, especially rule number 5. Rule number 1. Lock the front doors at exactly 10:30 p.m. Not before, not after. If you get the timing wrong, you'll be locking something inside with you. Rule number 2. If you see a shopping cart moving on its own between the aisles, don't touch it. Don't even get close. Rule number 3. Around 12:05, if you hear knocking from inside the freezers, ignore it, no matter how loud it gets. Rule number 4. When you walk past the clothing section, the mannequins will turn their heads to follow you. Pretend you don't notice, and whatever you do, don't look back at them. Rule number 5. At exactly 2:53 a.m. on Security Monitor 2, a woman in a white dress will appear, staring directly into the camera. Do not blink. Do not look away until she walks out of the frame. If you break eye contact, even for a second, she'll vanish. And right after, you'll hear knocking on the security room door. Turn off all the lights. Crawl under the desk. Don't move until the knocking stops. Stay calm. Follow the rules. And good luck, Night Guard.
Alex Russo has passed away. Be sure you're following to stay in the loop. So on Wizards Beyond Waverly Place, Selena Gomez's character Alex Russo just passed away in the season 2 finale. Now I won't get too into the details of the episode, but the way that Alex Russo passes is she essentially sacrifices herself by tackling an evil wizard into a portal, which then closes after both her and the evil wizard fall in. Rest in peace to Miss Alex Russo. You're one of Disney Channel's greatest characters.
Yo, Wizard of Waverly Place when I was a kid was one of the greatest shows on Disney Channel at the time.
To the 2 little girls that have passed away in New York City for train surfing, have you guys went on her TikTok and seen the type of activities that she prolonging? Like, we're not gonna, their parents should be blamed. That's for 1. And for 2, they really cost their life on doing dangerous things. Have you guys went on their TikTok pages? Like, this little girl literally be on bridges and under bridges and posting hanging from buildings and bridges and stuff like that. Like, she had like no tea, no shade. Like, this type of shit was bound to happen. Like, rest in peace to her. This is not the first. They were not the first people to pass away on train suffering, and they're probably not going to be the last thing to pass through on train suffering. And I just want you to truly know, like, there's nothing that should cost you your life enough to be so dangerous, doing dangerous things. Like, just these kids are doing dangerous things on a day by day. And like I said, as parents, I know you cannot control everything that your kids do, but having a peace of mind of exactly where your kids is at should be top tier one of them. And for them to have been recording while underneath the train and there's a train going above them, first of all, I'm scared of the rats. But forget the rats. The electricity from the trains that could have been knocked them out and killed them. Like, it's just so much that these kids were actually doing. But hey, parents need to watch out for their kids. And
yeah, I do remember hearing about 2 kids actually dying from subway surfing. That's been a really popular thing in New York, where a lot of people have actually started riding on top of trains. And sadly, a lot of them, they miscalculate things, or they get trapped in certain areas, and then they just get... I'm not too sure what the story is about her, but all I know is that she was very young.
Morbid Facts, Part 744. After retiring from the NFL in 1990, Hall of Famer Mike Webster's life unraveled into a spiral of bizarre and disturbing behavior. Once celebrated as the Iron Man of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he spent his final years homeless or sleeping in his pickup truck, suffering crushing headaches, dementia, and paranoia. Friends and family later described shocking habits: urinating in his own oven, shocking himself with a taser just to fall asleep, and gluing his decaying teeth back together. At one point, he even carried around a briefcase filled with superglue, painkillers, and duct tape, using them as makeshift tools to hold his broken body together. By the time he died of a heart attack in 2002 at just 50 years old, Webster's decline had become a cautionary tale of the hidden costs of football. When doctors examined his brain, they discovered the first confirmed case of CTE in an NFL player, proof of how the game had slowly destroyed him from the inside out.
This doctor always consumed magic mushrooms before his surgeries, believing that it enhanced his focus during operations. While performing a surgery, he suddenly realized that he was operating on himself. Seeing this, he became frightened and decided to stop the operation. He thought he had hallucinated due to consuming too many magic mushrooms and had suddenly passed out. When he came to, he realized he had actually passed out in his kitchen chair and that he wasn't a doctor at all. He'd been trying to carve a turkey for Thanksgiving, and the whole thing had just been a bad trip.
Meanwhile, Patricia's visibly exhausted, gasping for breath as Carrie continues to chase her.
You done playing the stupid games? Yeah. How you shut up? How you shut up? Huh? What?
In the end, Carrie appears to be heading back home. Yet, behind that silence, he plots something dangerous. Even in his intoxicated state, he knows Patricia's been recording his every move. So he makes a calculated choice to stay quiet enough to make Patricia believe that everything's over and follow him back into the residence.
Yo, is it me or does he look like the thumb man from Spy Kids, if y'all know what I'm talking about?
On the morning of August 26, 2015, WDBJ reporter 24-year-old Allison Parker and her cameraman 27-year-old Adam Ward visited the Bridgewater Plaza near Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. Their goal was to do a live interview with the executive director of the local Chamber of Commerce, Vicki Gardner, about an upcoming event at the lake. Things went just as planned initially, with Adam setting up the camera equipment and Allison starting the interview at 6:45 a.m. What none of them knew, however, was that they were about to become the victims of a crazed stalker. Just seconds into the interview, an armed man walked up to the group and opened fire. The live feed cut back to the in-studio reporter, who was just as shocked at what happened as the many viewers watching live.
Okay, not sure what happened there. We will, of course, let you know as soon as we find out what those sounds were from.
Tragically, by the time first responders arrived, both Allison and Adam had already succumbed to their injuries and passed away. Vicki was badly hurt as well, but she managed to play dead and ultimately survive the encounter despite getting shot in the back. As for the perpetrator, he had already fled the scene by this point, and with no nearby CCTV capturing a clear image of his face or view,
Morbid Facts, Part 709. YouTuber Benjamin Bennett built a cult following with his eerie project Sitting and Smiling. Hundreds of 4-hour videos where he sits cross-legged, staring at the camera with a fixed grin, never moving or speaking. What starts as harmless quickly turns unsettling, the smile morphing into something more of a mask. His commitment over the years has produced some rather disturbing moments. In one recording, someone apparently tries to break into his home, but Bennett continues to grin without moving, sending the intruder fleeing in fear. In another, he loses control of his bladder midstream but still doesn't break character, letting the accident happen as though it were irrelevant to the ritual. In perhaps the most disturbing case, he allegedly kept filming while his grandmother lay dying in the next room, the fixed smile never faltering even as tragedy was unfolding in his own home. He's never once broken character or explained why he does this, leaving behind thousands of hours of unsettling footage that's disturbed viewers online for years.
So this 20-year-old kid ate a little bit of pasta, and 10 hours later, he died of liver failure from it. This is what happened. So the kid's name was AJ, and he was doing kind of a meal prep type of thing. He would cook all the pasta, a big batch of it. He would separate it out into different dishes, and then when it was time to eat it, he would put it in the microwave, heat it up, add his sauce, and he's ready to go. The problem is, instead of putting it in the refrigerator, he would just leave it on the counter for the week. Now, leaving it on the counter allowed bacteria to grow, and a lot of people think, okay, well, once it's sitting out there, a lot of times you're just like, oh, well, just heat it up, it'll kill the bacteria. Well, not in this case. See, this is a very common thing that occurs when people call it basically the fried rice syndrome, and it's basically this specific type of bacteria that causes diarrhea, vomiting, and all sorts of stuff that occurs from the bacteria, the specific type of bacteria that grows when you leave food such as rice or pasta at room temperature for an extended period of time. And in some instances, it can be deadly. And in his case, it was the deadly kind. So he ate the pasta, went outside to play some sports, and
this was the tragic moment when just a single pitch pushed an MLB player to suicide. On October 12, 1986, Angels relief pitcher Donnie Moore was just one strike away from sending his team to the World Series when he gave up a devastating home run to Boston's Dave Henderson in Game 5 of the ALCS. The Angels went on to lose the game, the series, and fans never forgave him. Even though the loss wasn't entirely his fault, Moore became the public scapegoat. He was relentlessly booed, received hate mail and death threats, and was blamed for cursing the team. The moment single-handedly destroyed his career in mental health. He spiraled into depression, injuries, alcoholism, and financial stress. For years, he lived with the unbearable guilt of that one pitch, famously saying, "I relive it every day." In July of 1989, consumed with anger and despair, he shot his wife during an argument, then turned the gun on himself in front of one of their children. His wife survived, but Moore died at just 35 years old. One of the most tragic examples of how a single moment in sports can lead to a real-life nightmare.
What do you do if a great white bumps you? And I said, well, I'd be scared and I would swim to shore. And he says, you know how fast they can swim in the water? 40 miles an hour. The fastest swimmer in the world can outswim this. When you splash, 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 you are saying, come eat me. It's exciting him. He's saying, oh, you're food. Okay. It's nothing personal. If they don't know what you are, they're going to bump you to see what you do. If you immediately attacked him, because it's only an instant, and you scratch his eyeball or grab his gill, he's gone. Doesn't want to mess with you. These sharks, these great whites, in the womb, if there's 7 babies in there, the winner is the one that eats all of them. Then they're born and they come out fighting.
A blind girl was once asked what it's like to lose your vision, and the way she explained it left everyone speechless.
You guys keep asking me, Kitty, what do blind people actually see? Is it blackness? Is it dark? I'm about to burst some bubbles because it is none of that. Blind people see nothing. Let me try and explain what nothing is. I think the best way to imagine it is like, close your eyes and try and see out your elbow. You can't. There's nothing, right? That's kind of what it's like to be blind.
I still feel like that's so hard to imagine, because how do you imagine seeing nothing? They're like, imagine seeing through your elbow. How do I imagine seeing through my elbow?
We have a new update on this entire David situation that makes him look even more guilty than he already does. So in a new article from TMZ, it states that up at the top, David is making some real estate moves as cops investigate the passing of Celeste Rivas, who is the body that was discovered in his Tesla. Then at the bottom it states that he transferred 2 of his Texas homes to his mother. The article also goes on to state that this information was discovered in new legal documents obtained by TMZ. It also says the singer transferred the deeds of 2 Houston area residences he owns under a trust to his mother. Now, it's very clear what David is doing. He is transferring his assets to his mother. So, if a lawsuit comes up and he gets potentially sued, they can't take anything from him because nothing is under his name. It is under his mother's name, which they cannot take from her. I just feel like this is very telling, and I also feel like this is something an innocent person would not be doing, and it just really makes David look guilty. And, he's just trying to save his assets in case he's taken to court and whatnot. So, very telling once again. I'm curious to know your thoughts about it.
Kind of disagree. In my opinion, it's like if you are innocent or guilty, people can still sue you. You know what I'm saying? As long as you're involved in a situation, they can sue you, even if you are innocent. So I think him doing that is actually a smart decision.
This is Worst Deaths Imaginable number 42, and it is very graphic, so viewer discretion is advised. Hello, true crimers. This is the story of Katarzyna Zawada. Katarzyna was a 23-year-old Polish student. She had a doctor's appointment scheduled on November 12, 1998, but she never showed up for it. She was supposed to meet her mother at that appointment, and it was very important because it was a psychiatric appointment. Katarzyna was suffering from a lot of issues with depression and other psychological issues, so when she didn't show up, her mother became concerned, tried to report her missing, but police said you have to wait longer. On January 6, 1999, a tugboat captain would uncover something very disturbing. Floating in a river that he was in was a long strip of kind of clear material, and it had a very, very bad odor. When he got close to it, there was a human ear attached to it. He pulled it on board, and it's blurred out, and I'm gonna kind of try to cover it here, but what it actually was an entire torso of skin. Just the skin. When police pulled DNA from it, the DNA matched Katarzyna Zawada. The police would then comb the river and they found body parts. They found her right leg. They also found articles of clothing. They never found the bulk of her torso or her head. Police quickly realized what the skin they found was. It was a perfectly formed skin suit. Someone did this intending to wear her skin. After years and years of investigating, in 2017, a man by the name of Whinging Robert J. was arrested for Katarzyna's murder. This man was apparently already on police's radar back in 1999, but for some reason, nothing came to fruition. What did he do to her? She was skinned alive. He took a sharp instrument, and while she was still alert and awake, he slowly cut the skin of her torso off of her. He apparently was an expert in skinning animals, so he just used the same technique on her. She allegedly was alive for most of the skinning process. She was then stabbed in her neck, her groin, and her armpit until she died. It was a sadistic torture murder. He also beat her severely and sexually assaulted her. And believe it or not, the man is still awaiting trial.
Dude, that was one of the most inhumane deaths I've ever heard.
A crypto influencer was just found in his Lamborghini after unaliving himself amid this historic crypto market crash. His name was Kostas Kudo. He was the CEO and co-founder of Cryptology, and he took his own life after losing $65 million of his investors' funds to futures trading due to Trump's 100% tariff announcement on China. This story is absolutely devastating, and I really hope he rests in peace, but what makes it worse is that this story is the personification of what can happen if you put all your money into crypto and irresponsibly overextend yourself using leverage. Think about it. This man was a very influential figure in the crypto space, and he was found unalived in his Lamborghini. His Lamborghini, one of the most mainstream status symbols that you can achieve to let everybody know that you made it in crypto, and he was found unalived in his Lamborghini because he overexposed himself and his investors to leverage. I really hope this story is a wake-up call for you that if you are not already doing so, please make sure that you are practicing safe investing principles and never put in more than you can afford to lose. And most importantly, never put too much emphasis on material things. Your life is way more precious than just crypto and money.
But yeah, I remember hearing about that story, and it's really insane that that crypto crash completely took out a lot of people's money, like a lot of people. He said he lost $65 million of other people's money. Tragic.
How did humans survive the Ice Age? It sounds almost impossible, right? Back then, we were some of the weakest creatures around. No fur, no real protection, and it was cold. I'm talking brutal cold. Temperatures could drop below minus 40 degrees Celsius. Step outside in a blizzard, and you weren't just freezing. Your eyes could literally start to freeze if you kept them open too long. The only real option was to hide away in caves, sometimes for days, until the storm finally passed. But the cold wasn't even the worst part. You were being hunted. Saber-tooth cats. Short-faced bears standing over 11 feet tall. They'd come for you in the daytime. At night, packs of direwolves, each the size of a person, were tracking you through the snow. And food? Forget about farming. You couldn't grow anything. Every meal meant going out there, risking it all with nothing but stone tools and sharpened bones, praying you'd bring something back, knowing someone in your group might not return. And even if you made it through the cold, the predators and the hunger, life was short. Most people didn't live past 30. At one point, scientists think there were only a few thousand humans left on the entire planet. Just tiny groups, maybe 20 to 50 people at most, scattered across a frozen world. It really was the hardest time in history to be human.
Okay, these Sora AI videos are actually getting out of hand. Not only do we have Jake Paul converting to Islam in one video, and then coming out as gay in the next.
An announcement in 3, 2, 1. I'm gay. I hope everyone here supports me.
But now both the daughters of Martin Luther King and Robin Williams are having to go as far as to beg the public to stop sending them AI videos of their fathers. Zelda Williams said that this is not what her father would have wanted, and these people are not making art, but rather disgusting overprocessed hot dogs out of the lives of human beings. MLK's daughter said, "I concur concerning my father, please stop this." Because, for context, Sora literally allows you to recreate MLK's world-famous "I have a dream" speech into this. But it doesn't stop there, because this week, major content creators now also speaking out against AI and Sora. Mr. B said that these were scary times and expressed concern on how this would impact millions of creators. Casey Neistat said,
"My analysis, we are so completely
and the YouTube channel Kyrgyzstan, in a nutshell, that has almost 25 million subscribers, they posted a video last night titled "AI Slop is Killing Our Channel." But where does this even end? I mean, Casey Neistat asked his own team if they would get sick of it, and they said this.
But you don't think people are going to get sick of the fact that it's AI?
No.
What does this say for the future?
It's over. Yeah, it's over. Some people say it's a good thing, that it democratizes creativity, similar to how social media democratized entertainment and gave the power to the individual so that they can one day compete with the likes of Hollywood. But others, like Robin Williams' daughter, say stop calling it the future. AI is just badly recycling and regurgitating the past to be reconsumed. You are taking in the human centipede of content, and from the very, very end of the line, all while the folks at the front laugh and laugh, consume and consume. So the question is, chat,
they would pour layers of blood onto a knife positioned upright in freezing condition, and as the blood smell reaches the wolf's nose, the wolf would come and start sniffing and licking the knife blade, until its tongue becomes completely numb from the frozen steel. The wolf, in desperation for fresh, warm blood, licks the knife more aggressively, never realizing it's a trap, and ultimately bleeds out.
Okay, breaking news. Police have just confirmed that they have arrested streamer HS TikTok after a year-long manhunt. Here's what we know. So the UK police actually issued a warrant for his Harrison's arrest early last year after he missed a court appearance for dangerous driving. Now, he's accused of fleeing the scene after a car crash that left 3 people injured, and then he was later charged with using his phone while driving, driving without insurance, failure to stop after an accident, failing to report an accident, dangerous driving, etc. But bro isn't just accused of fleeing the scene, he's accused of fleeing the entire country for quite a damn long while. If he and when he would return to the UK, it was always inevitable that this would happen. So he was arrested on Friday, he appeared in court on Saturday, and then now he's been further held for another court appearance tomorrow. And the thing is, typically what he was charged for would often just end in, points on the license, a fine, but missing court dates and leaving the country could be treated as aggravating factors and, could come with additional, more severe consequences. But we'll see what happens tomorrow, and I'll keep you guys updated.
This is how Prince died. Prince was seen as a king of pop by many, with his hypnotic guitar solos and wild stage performances that left entire arenas speechless. He sold over 150 million records worldwide and became the most influential artist of all time. But he was suffering at the top. Years of performing and dancing left Prince with chronic hip pain, and instead of surgery, he turned to prescription painkillers. By the mid-2000s, he was taking doses far beyond safe limits, and in April 2016, he suddenly collapsed on his private jet. That's when doctors first realized the extent of his addiction. Strangely, instead of stopping, his prescriptions were simply switched. And then only 2 days later, Prince was found unresponsive in the elevator. The cause was an accidental fentanyl overdose. At just 57 years young, he died. But here's where things get crazy. Prince had sung about elevators for decades, even calling them the devil. In his song, Let's Go Crazy, he said, "And if the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy." Did Prince unknowingly predict his own death?
Right now, your brain is preparing for something it will only do once, shutting down forever. And the process is more terrifying than you think. 7 minutes after your heart stops, your brain experiences its final surge of activity. A massive wave of electrical energy floods through your dying neurons. It's called a death spike, and scientists have no idea why it happens. Your brain knows it's dying. Oxygen stops flowing. Cells begin screaming for help. But instead of quietly fading, your entire neural network fires simultaneously, one last desperate burst before the darkness. During these 7 minutes, your brain releases every stored neurochemical at once: dopamine, serotonin, DMT, the same compound that causes hallucinations. This is why people report seeing tunnels of light, deceased relatives, their entire life flashing before their eyes. Your brain is creating one final dream, a biological mercy mechanism to ease you into oblivion. But here's what's truly unsettling. Studies on rats show this death spike is stronger than any brain activity during life, stronger than deep sleep, stronger than dreaming. Your brain is more active while dying than it ever was while living. EEG readings prove consciousness doesn't vanish instantly. You're still aware, still processing, trapped inside a body that no longer responds. You can hear the doctors calling your time of death while your mind is still screaming. After 7 minutes, the spike ends. Neurons disconnect, synapses dissolve, and you, the electrical pattern that was your consciousness, simply stops existing. So when your time comes, remember, your brain will fight until the very last second. Then it will let you go.
So this con man pretends to be James Bond, basically, to get a woman to fall in love with him so that he can steal her money. Now, the con man's name is Mark, and Mark is 39 when this story starts, and he's living in England. And bro, he's always been a con artist. He's always taken on different identities and ripping people off, and because of that, he's been in and out of prison. But Mark, he doesn't seem to care. He just wants to make a lot of money any way he can. And so one day in 2012, he meets a target who's eventually gonna take him down. He walks into a clothing store to buy some clothes one day, and there he meets this woman, Carolyn. And Carolyn is the manager of the store. And Carolyn thinks he's kind of fine. And so they start talking, and they hit it off, and they start flirting, and soon they're dating. Here's the thing though. Mark, he doesn't tell her that he's a turd who's been in and out of prison for scamming people. Instead, he tells her that he's a wealthy Swiss banker. And he's always bragging about how rich and successful he is and that he's friends with all these celebrities like Chris Evans and Nikki Clark. He even claims that he's spoken with Hillary Clinton and that he knows fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld. And I guess Carolyn hears all this and she believes that he's this rich, important guy and she's all impressed. And Mark, he takes her on shopping sprees and he's always talking about how he wants to buy an airfield to restore vintage planes. Okay, but the reality is, Mark, he's obviously not rich. He's not friends with any celebrities. In fact, he's a liar. And to make it worse, he's actually married to another woman and they have 2 kids. And his real wife and kids live not that far away from Carolyn. So sometimes he disappears and Carolyn won't see him for a couple of days at a time because, he's with his first family because he's living a double life. Now, eventually, after seeing him vanish all the time without explanation, she starts getting suspicious. Like, where the hell's he going for days at a time? And Mark, he can probably sense that she's starting to get suspicious, so in order to cover his tracks, he starts telling her that he has to leave so often because he's an undercover secret agent. He says he's actually working for MI6, the UK's secret intelligence service. That's literally the agency that employs James Bond. That's who he says he works for. Like he's fucking James Bond. Anyway, he tells her that the Swiss banker stories and the airfield stories, all of that is just cover for his MI6 missions, and that whenever he disappears for days at a time, it's because he's away on his super top secret assignments. And to try and prove it to her, one day Mark is with Carolyn, and he tells her that his boss wants to see him. And then he drives her over to the MI6 building. When they get there, Carolyn watches him walk past 2 armed guards and into an underground parking lot somehow. I guess he's trying to make it look like he works there. Now, I guess Carolyn's never met a real undercover agent before. So in her mind, this all checks out. So she believes him. Once she believes him, Mark now has a free pass to keep up his bullshit and disappear for days at a time without question. And each time, he'll then show back up at her place with some new excuse as to why he was gone. Like one time he shows up with his arm in a sling and he tells her he was working undercover in Syria and he got shot. Another time he shows up with his head all bandaged with a drain dripping from it. And he tells her he's got a brain tumor and that the MI6 is so worried that he's gonna spill state secrets that they got him under hospital guard, but that he somehow snuck out just to see her. I mean, he says all kinds of crazy shit. And poor Carolyn, she seems to buy into every word he says. And if that isn't bad enough, this is when he starts conning her out of money. Now, at some point, Mark tells Carolyn that he's tired of being an undercover agent. This MI6 life, it's no longer for him. He doesn't want to be James Bond anymore. Instead, he now wants to focus on real estate, like buying luxury properties. And Carolyn, she's supportive of this career change. I mean, anything that gets him out of danger sounds good to her. But then he starts asking her for loans. He tells her, "Dear, I'm having some cash flow problems and I need to renovate one of my properties. Could you help me?" And of course, Carolyn is like, "Don't worry, babe. I've got you." Now, Carolyn recently sold her house, so she has a bit of money in her savings. So she lends him £26,000. And over the next few months, she lends him more and more money, eventually in total giving him around £750,000, or about $1 million US. And of course, Mark, he doesn't use any of this money to renovate any real estate. He spends it on himself, on like nice cars and expensive rental properties. And he even uses some of it to pay for his kids' private school tuition. Meanwhile, he's still stringing poor Carolyn along. He tells her he's gonna marry her. He even buys her a wedding dress to prove it, probably using the money that she lent him. Then he convinces her to move into a luxury apartment she thinks that he owns. But in reality, it's a rental and he paid for it with her money. And by this point, she's like super in love, like she's in way deep. She quits her job, she moves in with him. But once she moves in with him, Mark gets real controlling. And he starts isolating her from friends and family so that they can't warn her about what's really going on or talk her out of giving him any money. And this goes on for months. But then, once Mark feels that he's drained her enough, he starts to pull away. and slowly he stops replying to her calls and her emails, and he eventually ghosts her. And that is when Carolyn finally realizes that she's been scammed. And of course, she is devastated about this. In fact, she's so devastated that she even considers unaliving herself, and thankfully she doesn't. But meanwhile, Mark's scamming ass, he's already on the run. He eventually ends up in Spain, and there he just keeps conning people. This time he's like selling London luxury properties that he doesn't own to Spanish buyers. But after a few months of this, the Spanish police, they catch him, and bam, he gets arrested. And he gets convicted, and he's sentenced to 3 years in prison. So Mark is finally locked up, justice has finally been served, and he'll never commit another crime ever again. Until... Oh, come on, of course he's gonna commit some more crimes. While he's in prison, he applies for parole, and he's granted temporary release, on the condition that he surrenders his passport and stays in Spain. But of course, that's not what Mark does. As soon as he's out, he goes on the run again. Why do they even trust this guy? Anyway, so now the Spanish police are looking for him. Meanwhile, back in London, Carolyn reports Mark to the police because, he scammed her. So now Mark's on the National Crime Agency's 10 most wanted list. And so he's wanted in both Spain and Britain. And since he can't go to either of those two countries now, he decides to flee over to Switzerland. And there, he changes his identity and he sets up a fake company claiming to make black box recorders for driverless cars? That doesn't even sound like a real thing. But I guess people fall for it. He even brags that Elon Musk has invested $6 billion into his company. And with that bullshit story, he's able to scam someone out of 400,000 euros. So now he's wanted in Switzerland as well. Days later, bam, the Swiss police arrest him. And he eventually gets extradited back to the UK. Here's his mugshot. He then serves 2 years in prison there. After that, he has to go serve 2 years in prison in Spain.
That dude was literally a pathological liar. Like, I never understood people that could easily just be like, oh yeah, this and this happened, and it really never happened. That's definitely like a narcissistic type trait. And for everything he did, I feel like he deserved way longer than just 4 years.
Thank you all for watching this here video.